Is this thing working? Are we live? It looks like we're live. Sure does seem like we're live, coming at you from an on the road show. Hope everybody's having a fantastic whatever day you're watching this. If you're first time hanging out on a live show, thanks for stopping by. Doing a little bit of a rarity tonight. First of all, it's a Wednesday night. That's typically the nights that I don't do too many shows. I'm also doing a late night, which late night shows can be a little bit colorful. Language can get a little bit out there on occasion. And well, there's that because it's late night. Beverage of choice for the evening will be decaffeinated coffee. And we're eating a cookie because I am working, or at least kind of buttoning up a tune on that Triumph Bonneville T120. Tune ECU, yay. But the thing is that we're working on stuff that we know. Tuning is not that far removed. It doesn't really matter if it's a motorcycle, a snowmobile, an airplane, a car. It's all very, very similar, but not all engines react the same. Let me check in with you guys real quick. Skids, it's in with the late show. Got the bald guy with the shades and the cadence right. DM's right behind him. What's up, fellas? So yeah, absolutely. Doing a late show. A reason why I got to thinking about, I was working on this tune. I just got back from hanging out with some clients and was kind of diving into this a little bit. I thought, I haven't done a tuning show in a while, and I'm pretty well buttoning up the Bonneville. There's not going to be much left to really work on until I can get that thing to a dyno and actually validate my fuel curve. Although I don't think it's too far off, and I am going to load a couple of tunes. And what I'm doing right now is I'm doing a preemptive strike, if you will. I'm putting some tunes together, and actually I think I've got one that's just going to be a one and done. It should be, but we'll see. I'm still working on it. Lots of throttle tuning, as you may imagine. And it's a lot like working with a car. A lot of what happens with a modern vehicle is what I'm doing with this particular motorcycle. So it kind of has a little bit of a lateral feel here where what I'm doing to this bike with driver command torque basically is the same thing that I did with cars and trucks. When you are trying to get a vehicle to feel more powerful, to feel more accurate, like how much your foot is pressing that throttle down versus how much you're actually moving forward. That throttle response, well, if you think it's a big deal in a car, wait till you try to ride a motorcycle with an electronic throttle. That is bizarre, to say the least. You get this really weird disconnect. Your mind with your foot, and it's the same with your wrist. You get this intuitive physics about what it's supposed to feel like when you roll into the throttle versus how the thing goes forward, whether it's a car, bike, or whatever. As you might imagine, bikes are a little bit more, in some cases, in many cases, they're a lot softer. It's a safety thing. The stakes are a little bit higher when you're on a motorcycle, I would argue. And well, actually, they're a lot higher. And so a lot of these bikes, they err heavily on the side of caution, and that is to say that they are numb. So that's what I'm working on, as well as some timing tables and some fueling tables. So that's kind of what I'm up to this evening. So if you've got any tuning questions, hit them up down here. Let me duck in and say hey to you guys, and we can talk about some of the tuning things that I'm working on, primarily the stuff that I would do straight away for an entry-level tune. So we can talk about that. And Dan saying, hey, what's going on, Professor? Long time no see. Glad to be able to join live again. Happy to have you, Dan. Sovereign is in. Surprised to see you on. Just got home not too long ago. Had to set up a network and some PCs for a car dealer. Didn't get home till late. A man putting in the midnight oil. Shane's in. What's going on, B? What's going on, Shane? Car wash is in. Hey, B, looking fly. How you do? Doing good, my friend. Hope you are as well. Get some of this cookie up in my face. All right. So, tuning. Let's talk about that. What do you adjust first? That's one of the things a lot of people ask. First thing I try to adjust is the owner of the vehicle in terms of setting expectations, letting them know what exactly to look for. But when you're talking about getting power out of a vehicle, it's never about horsepower and torque at first. The idea is to get the vehicle feeling right. You basically have to be a tailor. You can't just say that, well, my throttle mapping is best throttle mapping because I like it. It does not work like that. What I like could be too sedate for somebody. It could be too aggressive for others. And so what I've learned is in many cases, you can ask somebody, okay, for an entry level tune, you want to keep the same fuel quality that you're used to playing with. You don't want to have to be forced into running higher octane gasoline, which means your power is going to basically more or less remain stock. We can dive into torque management or whatever, but let's just say that all you want is for the thing to just be more responsive. You want it to run better. You want it to do more when you give it the same amount of foot that you think it should do. And that's a table called driver command torque or driver demand torque. It's a torque management table. Motorcycles have it too. And in motorcycles, I will show you this right here. Just kind of give you an idea for what one of my tables look like. This is called the ETV1, and you can have an ETV for really any of your gears. You can go ETV1, ETV2, which is second gear. I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. ETV2 is for different modes. Sorry, I'm thinking about timing tables. ETV1 can be a sport mode, could be a rain mode. Just depends on how the manufacturer has it set up. And what you're really mostly interested in is that part of the table. Notice where it says 100, that's 100% throttle. And as you go down, that is a lower throttle setting. And then what I'm doing is I'm blending the throttle up. So in areas where I want the throttle to be more linear, I'm kind of ramping in a percentage. In areas where I want that thing, when I get to a certain point in my wrist or for a throttle for a car, when you get to a certain point with your foot, you need to be commanding full throttle. And it's all about maintaining a certain, well, let me just give you an idea as far as a graphic representation. That's what the graphic representation of that throttle curve looks like. Down low, it's kind of soft. This way you don't have too jumpy of a throttle. And in this case, we're dealing with a parallel twin 1200 cc. We're just going to kind of like slowly ramp that in just for the first maybe 2 or 3 millimeters, or say for around 8 or about 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit more. 1/4 of an inch of throttle turn, we're going to have that thing just be a little bit soft. And once we get past that, though, it's going to jump straight up this way into a linear fashion. This is a little bit of an over-exaggeration as far as how it's going to react, but the throttle mapping on a car is the exact same thing. There is absolutely no difference with that. So that is typically one of the first things that I'll do is I'll map the throttle and then send the person on their way. Go take it for a ride and let me know what you think. In many cases, that could be all that they're looking for. Everything else is fine. And they're not really looking for more enhanced performance out of the vehicle. They just want something that's going to react to a bit more intuitively, I guess is the best way to put it. So that's what I'm working on. And that's kind of a universal thing with any of these electronic throttle vehicles. If you don't have an electronic throttle, well, you're not going to be messing with that, but you get the idea. Let's see. Marvelous N saying, what's up, you Mason? Great live stream. Thank you, Marvelous. Oh, the new Ducati motocross bike. Yes. Yeah. That one and the Triumph are looking really stout. Someone saying, looks like Paul may do a 15-inch conversion on the D170. Yeah, we've been talking about that for a hot minute. And when he first brought it up, I just told him, I said, look, dude, everybody that's running deep numbers has a 15-inch conversion on a Hellcat. Why would this car be any different? That's what we were talking about. This is before he bought the car. We were already talking about what to do with that thing. Marco. All right, so cookie is damn good. So, guys, that's throttle mapping in a nutshell. Now, the next thing, believe it or not, with modern automatics, to be quite honest with you guys, it's going to just be shift points. But here's the problem. When you start getting into shift points, one of the problems that you'll run into is so remember we were talking about throttle mapping. And keep in mind, nothing that we have even begun to discuss has anything to do with actual horsepower. But when you start getting into, when you get out of throttle mapping and get into shift pointing, once you dive into that, that is what will take you the most time to get sorted out. I'll tell you that right now. I've had transmission tunes, my own personal stuff. And of course, I'm one to say this because I have the luxury of being able to do this, but I have had, in the Lightning, I had like 58 revisions, and all of that is all partial throttle. I had wide open throttle was a wrap, probably 3, maybe 5 revisions into it, just kind of nitpicking shift points. The Hellcat was equally the same though. Hellcat, I probably have, just for the back half of the track alone, I probably have it may be close to 30, not maybe quite 30, but 28. For launch, I have at least 45. So I had more transmission tune revisions in that car than anything else. And by the way, that number I'm just giving out, that's somewhere around, say, 70 revisions on that one. Those are all individual hits. That's individual hits at the drag strip to really dive in and really drive home the shift points in that car. This is before I messed with line pressure and any of the nannies that came along with that thing. None of that existed at this point. It's just nailing down when the thing is to complete a shift. So, as far as which, when you're messing with all this, what picked up the most ET was nailing down the shift points. That was the biggest part of it. Fun fact, by the way, the Wrangler with the Hurricane 6 in sport mode, the HO version of that truck, car, SUV, whatever you want to call it, vehicle, that thing's trans tune is freaking practically perfect. I haven't had one on a dyno, and there's no real way to tune it right now because that operating system hasn't been cracked yet, but I can tell you that it's damn good from the factory, and I would have a hard time doing any better than that. So let's see. Sexo is saying my local dealership is selling a pre-owned super stock for 90 large. What do you think? I don't know. It depends on the super stock. Depends on how bad do you want a super stock. Here's the other thing. Super stock, nobody really knows what they are. I hate to tell you this, but I mean, you'd be damn near better off just buying a red eye. The super stock, damn, it's a killer cool car, but it just always seems to suffer that middle kid syndrome. 90 grand, if it's got a 4-digit mileage on it, it might be worth it. But if it's over 10,000, it ain't a collector's item. I'll put it to you that way. Shane saying, just purchased my LSX 427 block for my 5th-gen Camaro. That's cool. I am hell excited to put that car back together. I'm going NA high compression. That'll be a fun car. Someone's asking, on the road? Indeed I am. Noab is in. What's up? Shane saying, I want to learn how to tune, but I have a lot of things going on right now at the moment. It's like learning a new language, man. I'm telling you, it's not easy to try to dive into. If you have, I'll put it to you like this. If you've got working knowledge of, like, intimate working knowledge of how just an engine should work, approximate timing values and things like that, it's still a long uphill road. Now, it's just like anything else. It's cumulative. You build upon everything you learn, starts to stack up. And so it's just like anything else. If you want to get to somewhere that's far, you just have to start taking steps. And with every step, your journey is a shorter journey to get to a certain point. So until you're there, right? So that's kind of the cool thing about the, how do you say that's kind of the cool thing about the learning of the tuning and all of that, but it's ever evolving, and there's always something new to learn. So, and even the thing with tuning too, is that there's more than one way to skin a cat. You can get to the same result either through very clever manipulation of data or by simply hacking something and just forcing it to work. One way is the right way, and the other way just gets the job done. But a lot of times that's not necessarily what you're looking for. Let's see. Skid's checking in with Sovereign. Yeah, how you doing, buddy? You getting better, I hope. Sexo's asking, why would a red eye be a better option when a super stock if the super stock is numbered and rare? Red eyes are mass produced. It depends on what you're going to do with it, dude. I mean, seriously, they're numbered and rare. What does rare even mean these days? Look at the demon. The demon is numbered, I guess, and rare, but there's over 3,000 of them floating around. I think I think super stocks are one of the more rare versions of it. But it just depends on what you're going to do with it. If you're going to keep it stock, then numbered and rarity means something. If you're going to modify it, you'd want to go with something that is just more easily returned to stock and not beaten up. That would be my suggestion. And presumably you could pick one up for less than what's on the super stock. But listen, it's not that special, and it's not that rare, and it's not that great, because whoever had it before got rid of it. And that's listen, a lot of guys will see something that is quote unquote numbered and rare, and they think that they've stumbled upon something. The only time that thing is going to be worth money or more money than you bought it for is if somebody's willing to pay more money than you bought it for later on. I just don't know that it's going to get there. There's a lot of guys that are, and I'd hate to see you make a decision based on new, like it being, whatever is considered rare these days, because there's too much coming down the pike right now that will show that car its ass, and will do so in a pretty violent fashion. And the big problem there too is it's never going to be a demon. So if it's not a demon, what's a super stock? And then you got to explain it. And anytime you got to explain something, whoever you're explaining it to is already checked out, unless they are solidly in the know about that platform. To me, it's just another red eye variant. It's a cool car, don't get me wrong. It's got some neat parts, got the lightweight brakes, and it's got some things that make it special, but it just doesn't have the D word in the name, and that can sometimes put some people off. But I will say this, in the defense of the super stock, when the demons were overly, the values were overinflated, and a lot of guys were selling demons for like $130,000 to $150,000, the OG demon, all of them sold them and then got super stocks because they could buy a super stock for like 90 grand at the time, and or 88 or 89, was it 90? Anyway, I know 7 or 8 people that I know, just thinking off the top of my head, that got rid of demons and picked up super stocks. So there is that. a lot of super stocks were bought with demon money. I'll just put it to you that way. Let's see. So I'm saying doing better. Thank you. So I say, why are people complaining about the Demon 170 only doing 140? It's a quarter mile car. What do you expect? It's it's limited by time above speed. And I can't remember exactly how it's worded or written, but it's all about the tire. And it's a tire failing that they're trying to make sure you don't get yourself into. Those tires heat up really quickly and can fly apart if you hold on to the speeds that they're capable of running for more than realistic, in some cases for more than about 30 to 35 seconds. If you are at like a high speed and high temperature situation, those tires will start to, I don't want to say they'll fly apart. It doesn't work like that. They'll start to pill really badly. The rubber compound gets way too hot and the tire itself basically starts to disintegrate. You would see that on anytime if you've got like an open track, like an open circuit car, if they're running slicks and the tires are not inflated properly, if they're underinflated, you'll see them they get real greasy. And that's what can happen with that. So that's the reason why, if you ever wondered why why there is a bit of a limiter to that, well, it'll go over 150 in the quarter, but there is a speed limiter involved that keeps it sane for the tires that are on it. And again, that's a part of the the tuning of that car. If you were to get one, I mean, all you'd really have to do is just turn all of that stuff off in the tune, and that'd pretty much be a wrap for you. Make the thing go as fast as you want with a different set of wheels and tires. And there are some things, again, with certain vehicles, you turn off the multi-displacement system, the DOD system in some areas. It's kind of funny, really. You start to eliminate a lot of the nannies too in the torque management tables. So that's something that, once you really start diving into the tuning aspect, most of the gains that you'll get in terms of perceived performance have zero to do with making more horsepower, because you really can get more of a performance gain by doing all of the rest of these things first, and then start playing around with the performance, adding fuel, taking away fuel, whatever the case is, timing tables, things like that. That's really where that more comes into play. There's not a ton of power to be found with a naturally aspirated engine, and even with a boosted engine, you got to be careful because you're working with funky fuel qualities. You guys know that. The wrinkle marks on the tires. Oh yeah. User. It's crazy too, because the night I broke the record for the last time, the tires, I'm pointing like I'm in the shop, the tires that were on the car are still there. You can still see the wrinkle marks from that night. That car was ripping that night. I'm saying it looked like the car snapped to the side a little bit. I haven't seen that part of it. I know that it's still, he's got traction problems with that car. That car it's a race car, guys. This is the other thing you got to consider. It is a true race car. It just so happens that it's got catalytic converters and engine management that'll allow it to pass emissions. The platform really doesn't pass emissions, but the idea is that it is realistically a race car. That kind of power, that kind of torque, that kind of hit down low, that's not a street car. or at least you will not get anywhere near the performance out of it that the performance envelope that it has could deliver at a properly prepped drag strip with the right wheel and tire on the back of it. Sexo's asking, does the tires of the Demon and the Demon 170 waste a lot faster than tires on a Red Eye? Oh yeah, it's a race tire. I mean, that's all it is. It's a DOT legal slick, and it's legal by the absolute bare minimum. So yeah, I mean, it's a 0 tread wear rating, very little sidewall bolstering. I mean, it's designed to conform to the ground with traction compound and to propel forward whatever vehicle it's bolted to. Provided you're at the right pressure, it will dead hook and it will rip. Oh no, Ab. Yeah, my original tune worked good, but looked crazy. Your original tune sucked, man. I'm sorry. That's one of those things where it worked somehow. I mean, it wasn't dangerous to the car. It's just, yeah, it had my head scratching too. That would have never left the shop, but it worked. It went down the road. So I'm saying the Demon 170 is hard to tame. You're not really taming it. That's the problem. It's just a simple matter of corralling the thing. Forget about trying to tame it. You just need to get it in the pen. And, for the guys that have, what's the word I'm trying to find here? For the guys that have put the time in and they've sorted out their launch protocols and they've gone through all of that stuff and they've got it to run a number. Hey, joy occasion. But it's not as simple as you think. It's not as easy as you think with a Demon 170. It really does need all of the crap that's in it for you to be able to adjust your launch torque. It needs all of that. It's not like an OG Demon. OG Demons, I hate to tell you that, guys, this, I was the first person to run a 9-second quarter mile in an OG Demon at Houston Raceway Park. And that car was one of the easiest cars to drive I've ever driven going down the drag strip. Revlon was easy, but the Demon was easier, if you can believe that. And it was faster. But when I ran that 9-second pass, I did that on the NT05s. Give you an idea, an NT05 drag radial it's just a sticky street tire. It's got pretty heavy radial bolstering. The carcass is heavy. It's a good tire. But no, I ran that number is in essence a DOT real honest to goodness street tire. You would never be able to do that on with a Demon 170. There are limits to this game. There are, you get to a certain point and it's more is not better. I always give you the shit sandwich reference. Okay. I mean, if I gave you a shit sandwich and I put more shit on the sandwich, would it be a better sando? You'd probably argue it would make it worse, right? Well, that's kind of what happens with cars or bikes or boats or whatever. You get to a certain point and more is just more that you have to manage. It's more of a pain in the ass, really. So the Demon 170, I've got weird. I'm in a bit of a weird vibe when it comes to the Demon 170, because when you look at the Demon 170 from a viewpoint of 80 years ago, 60 years ago, it's an amazing thing. It really is. I mean, I can't put it any other way. If you're coming into this with a mentality that stems from the 1950s or 1960s, you didn't have that kind of power. You didn't have that kind of capability or ability. But the problem with the 170 is it's like being the most badass dinosaur. You're okay, neat, but that time is coming and going. And it's evidence. I mean, you got drag strips shutting down all over the United States. Drag racing is kind of taking a back seat to a lot of things right now for some guys. And that's the only place where the Demon 170 excels. What Dodge really needs is they need an all-wheel drive 500 or 600 horsepower thing that gets out on the street and puts in hell of work against Mustangs and Scat Packs and existing Hellcats. And it will absolutely, that particular car that I'm describing, let's say it's at 4,000 pounds, would absolutely house a 170 on the street. And anybody with a 170 would agree with that. Because until the 170 can gather up its skirt and get moving, and I'm not talking about somebody with a modified shit box with a 15-inch conversion and tires that look like paddle wheels. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about as delivered fashion here. That's what you're up against. And if you want to play the modified game, once everybody gets that 6-cylinder figured out, it's going to be all over but the crying. And that's just real talk. I mean, we've seen this happen with the import guys over and over and over again. So in a vacuum, sure, it's a kick-ass car. Love it. Absolutely. Would love to have one. Can't wait for my opportunity to get one down a drag strip. But for the rest of us, like for the more reality-based folks that are looking at that car, they're having a little bit of a hard time digesting it. I think a lot of people are having more of a hard time with that car because of what it represents in a way. It represents what could have been for a lot of the Hellcat variants with E85 and why was E85 never an option for a boosted car in this day and age? I mean, it is, golly, it's been 2015 now for basically 10 years. We've known about it. This is nothing new. Hell, my 09 F-150 was flexible, for crying out loud. So a lot of people are looking at it going, well, at least you did something at the very last of it, but none of us can afford it. And you didn't waterfall that technology into any of the other cars. So so the question came up about the super stock. Let me put something out there for you about the super stock. And one of the reasons why it always really, really, really annoyed me about that car. And it's not the car's fault. Before the super stock, you had the Hellcat. After the Hellcat, you had the Demon. Leading up to the super stock, you had two opportunities to have an E85 compatibility. The Demon chose to go a very strange route and have the capability of using race gas. And in the tune, I'll bring this back to the topic of the show. In the tune, one of the things that was, how do you say, in the tune, what was utilized to be the determining factor was the knock threshold. And it would take knock, and if it saw knock, it would know that it was gasoline and it had a certain timing protocol. If it didn't, then it knew that it had race gas, and so you had a different timing protocol. They didn't do that with the 85? Really? What a missed opportunity. So as time had ticked on, they had announced the super stock. I never really got into this too much, but I had really started salivating over that car because I hoped, or at least I thought it would be neat if they, being Dodge, finally saw the light, and in this case, super stock was going to be able to run on corn. That would have been a completely different car. I mean, that would have been a legit 950 horsepower car, and that would have set the stage for a Demon 170. It would have been a great next car to follow the Demon, and it would have been really the right thing to put out into the marketplace. But what it was just a bunch of leftover Demon parts, and they tarted it up with the name of super stock, which, by the way, I do have beef with the name because, I mean, not that I have a girl working this corner, but super stock Dodges were all naturally aspirated Hemis. So, I mean, couldn't it have been just a really hot rodded 392 or maybe a 426 naturally aspirated car as opposed to yet another Hellcat variant? I think a lot of people got a little bit burnt out on that game. So, anyway, getting back to you guys. Let's see. Sucks is saying if they made all-wheel drive Trackhawks that came with Hellcat engines, why couldn't they make the Demon and Demon 170 all-wheel drive as well? No. It has nothing to do with the car itself. The car, they couldn't get it to work in the platform. It would have added an unrealistic amount of cost where you already had all of that in play for the Trackhawk. So to make that work in the LX platform, you would have to gut the whole bottom of the thing, and that would have added a lot of cost. But no, there have been all-wheel drive hot rods. I mean, muscle car, whatever you want to call it. Listen, muscle cars weren't all-wheel drive back in the day because they didn't have to be. I mean, the market didn't demand it, but they also didn't have 700 horsepower to deal with. Great, I know the tires were shitty and all that. I get it, but still, you know what I mean. Rift ordered the 85 kit. Cool. Saying so far so good. Should have come that way from the factory. Got the super stock unlocked for race gas, but I'll say right now it's not worth it. Oh, ethanol is way better. Yeah, if you've got the option, you run ethanol every time. Race gas is like, why would you even waste your time when you can go anywhere and get super cheap ethanol that is far and away a better fuel? DM saying, I do have a soft spot for 90s Supras. I'm a big Mark III and Mark IV fan. And we are getting more and more of them in and around the shop. We're just seeing them more in the city. Itch is in. Good day, sir. Good day to you. Sean saying, hey, B, I've had some trouble. Cammed RT where it starts lurching from the stoplight and eventually cuts off. Yep. Voltage drops, drives good. Any idea where I should look at my tune? VE table. Drop your VE table by about 3.4 points at idle. See if it helps. Riv's saying, well, the original Demon was a naturally aspirated car too. Yeah, it was a piece of shit. All the stuff back then was. And they all rusted into the ground. That's why you can't find a decent one these days. And that car didn't have a racing pedigree either. Sovereign's asking, B, do you think that Hurricane engine could be Dodge's 2JZ equivalent? Yeah. I mean, it's twin turbo, it's 3 liters, it's inline, and it's 6-cylinder. Yeah, I would say easily. I mean, if they can put it in something that's worth crowing about, that's the other thing. You've got to have that. You've got to give that engine a platform that it will be able to flourish in. You really do. And that's really more the key to all of it. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. It cannot just be a truck engine. It can't just be a truck engine because it's going to get limited exposure on the truck racing scene. If you want to talk about guys that are going out there, putting in work, having fun with their trucks, the hot rod 4-wheel drive and the hot rod 2-wheel drive trucks, those guys are real competitive and they love what they do. And man, for the most part, you don't really like to bet against a truck, especially in an 8th mile race. But where I'm going with all that is it's got to be in a car too. It can't just be in a truck. And I'm sure it will be in a car, and the car is going to have to be all-wheel drive. We're done with rear wheel drive thing, with the amount of power that these cars are making and how they're delivering power. You can get away with rear wheel drive at, say 500, even 600, 650 horsepower. But you start getting above that, you're not gonna, it's going to be useless in most cases, unless you're hitting it from a roll. So I would prefer to see it in a car with all-wheel drive, and that's what my understanding is, that they've hinted at that. So I don't know, we'll see. We shall see. So it's asking, is a super stock basically a red-eye jailbreak but with Demon wheels and tires? No, it's got a lot of Demon parts on it. It is a different car. Let's see. Oh, Riff's saying he's hoping that they put the engine in a better body style. I'm going to reserve judgment. I mean, I haven't seen any of these things in the flesh yet. And that's kind of more the argument that I have, is that we haven't seen any of these cars yet. What is it, March 5th? Is it March 5th that we're waiting on? Anyway, whatever the date is, we need to start seeing something. I am losing my patience quickly with all of this. Let's see. Oh, Rips, I've been wanting to get a Fox body and build it for racing. A lot of people have done it. I've owned a lot of them. They do make a good race car. They make a good race car, but they can be a bit of a handful. So I would say the new Charger might be the platform. It's got to be. It's the only thing that they're showing us. Yeah, Rift. I mean, if you want to build a race car, Fox body would be okay. I would probably go with more, if I was going to do a Mustang, it'd be an SN95 because they're more torsionally rigid. Oh, Rift. Yeah, get you a Gen 6 Z01. They're good cars. Really good cars. They handle well. They have really good feedback. If handling doesn't necessarily mean G-force and just how the cars feel to drive, those feel really good. They're not a C7 Z06, but they're pretty good. No, I'm saying 93 non-ethanol versus 93 ethanol. My buddy told me to switch to non-ethanol 93 because it's better performance and ethanol is corrosive. Oh my God. Okay, so here's the thing when it comes to that. Non-ethanol 93 is a 93 octane gasoline. I don't remember its specific mole weight, but I think it's 0.793 if I remember correctly. 93 E10 is, and the reason why I'm even bringing up the molecular weight of it is because you start getting into the corrosiveness, the weight of the fuel, the this, the that, everything else. If you're going to let the car sit for any real length of time, don't put anything with ethanol in it, put stable in the fuel tank or whatever. I'm in the process of having to rebuild. Well, I didn't even do that. I just replaced the carburetor on my TRX 200, which is an old Honda four-wheeler, 1984 as a matter of fact. That thing, that contraption, just for sitting for about 6 months, I had to put a new carburetor on. That's how screwed up it was. With fuel injected vehicles, it's a different story though, because you have something mechanically pumping fuel through something at a high pressure. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be great forever. You still need to exercise it, and you still need to put some kind of fuel stabilizer in if you're not going to drive it for 3, 4, 5, 6 months at a time. At 6 months, that car has to be driven, or else or else. I mean, you're gonna have problems. But all that being said, modern vehicles with ethanol, if you're driving them, they don't really seem to be as affected. But I still wouldn't trust it. I just have I know ethanol fuel is just not that great. But as far as which one, I don't know, which one is better, I think they both work out just fine. E10 is going to be slightly higher oxygenated than non-ethanol 93, but I mean, we're talking very small percentage points at that particular amount of ethanol. So it's not really even worth bothering with. Long story short, as far as issues with corrosiveness or stuff like that, I don't know of anybody that's had a problem long term, provided that the vehicle is being used. Oh yeah, and yeah, Sovereign, and yes, make sure you're changing your oil. This is the funny thing. People want to try to I've had people try to argue with me before on this because of the lower molecular weight. If you're running E85 a lot, you need to be changing your oil at about at an interval that is roughly 70% of what the original manufacturer's recommendation is. So if they say 6,000 miles, maximum mileage you can go on your oil now is about 4,200 miles. If you are used to changing your oil every 4,000 miles, you're going to be changing it about every 25 to 2,800 miles, depending on how you're driving the thing. And if you're getting on it a lot, you're going to be changing that oil every 2 to 2,500 miles. And that's just the way it is. More of the ethanol gets past the rings because, again, the molecules are a lot smaller. They do get past the rings. You get more oil dilution. And I've gotten to an argument with somebody over this who thought that they were going to tell me that I didn't know what I was talking about, only for me to provide the documents from Ford Motor Company themselves about the protocol for ethanol-based fuel vehicles for long-term use with ethanol. Allow me to paraphrase. For them, they recommend once a month running one tank of regular gasoline, in other words, just like E10 or non-ethanol fuel through the system. And the oil change protocol is significantly more ramped up. Again, about 30% more regular. So that ain't me saying that. That's Ford Motor Company saying that. So my apology was, or that apology was accepted. Let's see. But that, yeah, you guys are, yeah, right there with me on the ethanol. You know, I tell you what, you know, and when it comes to the tuning of those cars, you know, a lot of times, the thing is with ethanol too, is a lot of times guys are, and this is something big you have to remember on the tuning side. When you are hammering on your car, remember that the changing your oil every, say, 6,000 miles is based on a certain way that you're driving it with a certain type of fuel. If you drive, let's say your vehicle manufacturer says 6,000 miles. Well, if you are racing that car, you're probably going to want to change it every 3,000 miles at least if you're going to the track once a weekend. So I would say at least, at the very most, 3,000 miles. Then if you're running ethanol, you're going to have to, well, then run it at the lower percentage point of that. But I would say you would need to half that amount of time. So I would say 1,500 to 2,000 miles max if you're running ethanol. Now, if it's over boosted, in other words, you're running a lot more boost, running a lot more power through that thing, and you're running on ethanol, man, you're going to be changing oil a lot with that thing. So just, again, something to remember, some protocols. You know, you get into tuning, you want to make more power, whatever, fine, make some more power with it. But the reality that you're going to run into, hang on, this is about to croak, but the reality that you're going to run into is is that your service intervals are going to go crazy. And for a lot of guys, I'm not kidding you, man. A lot of guys where they run into a problem with their car, especially the corn guys, is that they forget to change oil regularly and end up spinning a bearing. So change your oil often if you're tuned on ethanol. It's just part of the cost of playing, you know what I mean? Let's see. We're just asking, why does the passenger side get more oil through it than the driver's side when it comes to catch cans? It is, I don't know. I don't know. Probably how the vapor is moving around inside the engine. Somebody's out there having fun. Slash is in. And most of that is going to be water vapor typically. That's something else. One thing you do have to remember too is if you are running ethanol, you've got to run that car regularly and keep it topped up. Ethanol loves it some water. It's hydrophilic, as we say, as the nerds would remind you of. And that means that alcohol loves water. And because of that, it can absorb water. It can absorb atmospheric moisture. So just, again, something to consider if you're messing around with that particular type of fuel, guys. But let's see. As far as any other tuning goes, let's see. Noab, my car has been sitting since August with BP Racing Octane Boost and 93 ethanol, but I do start it every 2 weeks. Should I add something to drain the tank? Nah. No, I wouldn't worry about that. You're not really you've got some octane booster in it, which can help. It will help to maintain octane. But at this stage of the game, you're not too far deep into it. If the car sits for another 2 or 3 months, I would go ahead and drain the tank. I think that car does have a Schrader valve, and you can get a fuel pump relay switch and just let the pump dump the fuel out of there. Because you don't want to leave ethanol fuel sit for very long. Again, it'll start to collect water, and the ethanol is bad enough, but the water that it can collect, that does just as much damage as the ethanol. Remember, it's not just the ethanol that's the problem. It's the ethanol and the water that conspire to wreck your entire system. So just remember that when you're thinking about tuning for that particular type of fuel. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Rick, the car, if from a fuel quality standpoint, yeah, I mean, it could have been condensation, or it could have just been, bad gas. I mean, you got to remember, ethanol is also in storage tanks in the ground too. So that is something to consider. One of the only reasons why I didn't like ethanol is and this will happen, unfortunately, if you work at a shop. And it's the quality of ethanol. We had a couple of situations where I actually thought I blew a car up once on the dyno. We had another situation where, because it went real lean, the car did not want to run, and I thought that I hold a piston, and come to find out everything was fine with the car, but it just had a bad tank of ethanol in it. We had another car, though, the worst case scenario actually hit us. We had a car, not with a pop, but we had, and I caught both of these. The first one, the car was running rough on what was supposed to be really good ethanol, and it just, we ended up aborting that thing, and it was like, no, it's just a bad tank of gas. drained the tank, put fresh ethanol in it. The car made a pretty big number, come to find out. The other one, though, the second time I found it when I was loading the car onto the dyno, and the car was backing up onto the dyno, and it was running. And I'd gone back there to check the straps, and I went, wait a minute, because I straightened the car out on the dyno, and I was like, whoa, time out. No. The telltale about ethanol is that it smells like old dirty socks when it's burning. And this car smelled like regular gasoline. And like, no, this thing, get it off the dyno. It doesn't have the right. I mean, we didn't even make a full hit with it. So, or no, we didn't make a hit with that car. We pulled it right off the dyno, and again, had to drain the tank. And what had happened was, this has happened twice at that gas station. The guy put gasoline in the ethanol tank. So, yep. Sovereign, speaking of gas, there was a huge scam going on for years when drain fuel from wrecked cars was being salvaged and resold at gas stations. Well, waste not, I guess. Average saying, yeah, just a month or two before it's up and running. Nice. Slash is asking, how much difference between a 91 and a 93 tune? 5.7 Charger asking, because 91 is everywhere, 93 is more difficult to find. So for your car, not that much difference. There's not any more power to be found in really throwing the kitchen sink at that platform with timing. So, I mean, you'd still run the same basic timing profile on a 91 tune. Really, what I used to do with my truck was the guinea pig for the truck tunes, my 14 Ram. And if you go digging, you'll find it, but it's in my playlist under Ram 1500. And it's when we were tuning it on 89 octane, and we were really watching what knock sensors were doing and how much power we could get out of it. We didn't get any more power out of 89 or out of 93 octane than we did out of 89. It didn't want to take any more timing. The truck made what it made and away it went. So if you're worried about you're getting more out of a 93 versus 91 for that platform, don't worry about it. You're in good shape. 93 octane will just give you a little bit more protection against knock or kind of funky fuel quality. And other than that, you'll be fine. Don't worry about it. You're good. Rips, yeah, he's good with the ethanol that he's got because he's testing. Yeah, you need it. That's something else too. Good point. If you're running ethanol, you're going to have to test it so that you don't run into the problems that we've run into. And it's a real thing. Methanol, don't do it. It's very corrosive. So it's super cheap, but it is very corrosive. It works like a charm. It's got a lower stoichiometric value than ethanol, though, if I remember correctly. So you have to run more of it. But I mean, you went to a latent vaporization with it. It'll actually when it goes from being a liquid to a gas, it's so volatile that it'll actually start to freeze stuff that's around it. It's really good stuff. But no, I wouldn't. I'm not a big methanol anything guy. I don't like methanol injection for anything. If you're going to run methanol, don't run methanol injection. Just run methanol. You know what I mean? Like, if you want race car shit, do race car shit, I guess is what I'm getting at. But no, I don't like meth injection because what happens is you can't control the distribution unless you do direct port. Now, direct port meth, that's the good shit. But just standard issue, no, I wouldn't do it. Yeah, I mean, whatever. It doesn't matter if you want to rip. If you can put on a whatever. Doesn't matter. Unless it's direct port, I wouldn't run it. You don't have any way to control what the distribution is at what RPM, and what I mean by RPM is what blower RPM. Plus, I don't like running. It's just, I've just got a thing against throwing fluids at an apparatus that's only supposed to be flowing air. In general, it's just not a good thing. Let's see. And plus, I've had issues with meth kits failing before. Meth kits failing is one of the worst case scenarios that you can possibly have. Because what happens, and oh my God, we've had this before, this problem where people are bringing in a car that's tuned specifically with ethanol in mind. In other words, it's got methanol injection, and somebody tuned the vehicle with the methanol injection, and it's just like, oh my God, if this meth kit fails, this car dies. If they forget to put methanol in it, the car dies. We had a Magnuson LS1 Jeep that was running this freaking Igloo cooler full of methanol. And if any one thing would have gone wrong with that methanol kit, the pump, if there's like bad ethanol, or the guy, I don't know how the guy could have run it out of ethanol, because I'm not kidding, it was like an Igloo cooler full of this stuff. But whatever happens, and that kit doesn't fire properly, oh man, you're done. That thing would have been history. So not a big fan. So making the front wiper fluid tank into a methanol holder is not a good idea. It's a great idea if you're going to be using it to use a methanol direct injection kit. So, I mean, it's already there, may as well use it. But it's not very much of a capacity. And so I would be scared to death to do that. Although you will get a little warning light whenever that reservoir goes low. So at least you got that from the factory. Oh, and with that, guys, I got to wrap it up because we are now over an hour. So I want to thank each and every one of you guys for hanging out with me. Love y'all to death. Would not do this without you. And if you're going to send it, don't bend or keep your shiny side up, get out there and do something cool for somebody. There you go. And with that, guys, that's a wrap. Y'all have a great one. Adios.